Dan Campbell calls Jahmyr Gibbs his bell cow. Just when will this contract extension happen? Remember, he's got 2 more years left.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's good, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions, Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. We have been with you daily, Monday through Friday for the last 10 years. Great to bring you Locked On Lions. Coming up on the program today on a Wednesday, Darius Slay retirement party. Somebody was there, a former Lion. Could he also be a future Lion? We'll get into that. Trevor Thompson joined me yesterday from the Believe in Lions podcast. We discussed Kerby Joseph. I want to get into that. But we start with the Jahmyr Gibbs contract extension and discussion about what is next when it comes to the Lions and their bell cow running back. And I want to get into a lot of this today because it is vital and important that Jahmyr Gibbs is a part of the Lions now and future. But as we know with running backs, their shelf life is different than any other position in the National Football League. It really is. Think about Isaiah Pacheco. And let's dive into this. Let's think about Isaiah Pacheco for a second. 2 years ago with the Kansas City Chiefs, actually, let's go back to 2023. He was their bell cow. He had emerged as their leading guy. Injured his knee twice, both 24 and 25, and he's not been the same player to the point where the Chiefs, bring in Kenneth Walker and basically Pacheco's out on the street and now is a backup. I mean, he is the Lions. He's their backup quarterback or running back. He is their number 2 behind Jahmyr Gibbs. He's no longer considered a good enough starter to have signed anywhere else to be the lead dog. And I get it too. There are plenty of teams that have 2 running backs. You look at the David Montgomery situation in Houston, he's going to be the main guy, but they've got other players there. They've got Marks and other guys that they like down in Houston. So the shelf life for backs is small, it's short, and teams usually shy away from giving long-term deals and extensions to running backs. All right. Many people feel like you can get a good running back in the 5th round, 6th round, 7th round. And if you have a good offensive line and a good passing game, that person can shine. That running back can be really, really good. So, from that sense, it's a tough call for the Lions because for the first time in a while, when we talk about the best player on the Lions offense, last few years, we've talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've mentioned Jared Goff. When Sam Laporta was lighting it up, his Pro Bowl and All-Pro year, you could have made an argument for Laporta. But Gibbs had always been kind of a share the carries type of player for the Lions. Last year, I think he played 67 to 70% of the snaps, which in previous years, sharing time with David Montgomery, Jahmyr was getting about 60% of the snaps. He was asked last week about the contract extension. When's it coming? Does he want to be the highest paid running back in the NFL, et cetera? Because remember, right now, Jahmyr Gibbs is playing on the last year of his rookie deal. And then next year, the Lions picked up his 5th-year option. So he'll be making about $11 to $12 million next season. Gibbs said last week, quote, "Really, I'm just letting my agent, Brad, and all of them do that right now. I'm just worried about the team and ball. I'm just trying to hoop right now." End quote. So Gibbs is here. He is going to be here for the next 2 years. We know this regardless because they picked up his 5th-year option. And the Lions are seemingly deciding, and we don't know. The Lions have kept this very under wraps, but they're figuring out what their future looks like with Jahmyr Gibbs and what they want to do and how much money they want to offer him. Now, remember, Gibbs was picked 12th in the 2023 draft, 4 spots behind Bijan Robinson of the Falcons. And so Bijan's going to want to get paid too. Highest paid running backs in the NFL right now. You've got Saquon Barkley making just under $21 million average annual value. So $21 million a year, $20.6 million. Christian McCaffrey is at $19 million. Devon Achane just signed with the Dolphins, 4 years, $64 million. So he's making $16 million a year. Breece Hall just got 3 years and 45.5 from, or 3 years, like 45.7 from the Jets. So that's $15.25 million a year. Derrick Henry's making 15. Jonathan Taylor's making 14. Alvin Kamara's making 12.5, and Josh Jacobs 12 with the Packers. Let's get this out of the way right now. Are there any running backs that I just mentioned on that list? Barkley, McCaffrey, Achane, Hall, Henry, Taylor, Kamara, who the Saints don't even know what they're doing with because they drafted a running back, and or they signed a running back. Who the Saints just signed? It'll come to me. Saints just signed somebody in free agency. And Josh Jacobs. Are any of those guys bell cow number one backs that you would take over Jahmyr Gibbs? The answer is no. I'll take Jahmyr Gibbs over Saquon Barkley right now. Saquon is the gold standard. Saquon is tremendous. He's a Super Bowl champion. He helped bring a Super Bowl to Philly 2 years ago, and he was a difference maker for that offense. But if you watch last year, it looked like there was some tread on those tires from the amount of carries and catches and touches that he got in the 2024 season. Saquon Barkley was not the same player in 2025. Just wasn't. So I would take Jahmyr Gibbs over any of those guys. And my guess is that Jahmyr Gibbs is looking for a contract similar to what Jack Campbell got earlier this offseason. Jack Campbell got 4 years and $81 million from the Lions, becoming the second highest paid off-the-ball linebacker in the league. Jack Campbell's very good. Is Jack Campbell as good as Jahmyr Gibbs? No. No, he's not. So Bijan Robinson was taken 8th. Jahmyr Gibbs was taken 12th. Bijan, so far in his career, 3,910 yards, 25 rushing touchdowns, 9 passing touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 3,580 yards for his career, 39 rushing touchdowns, 14 more than Bijan. 10 touchdowns through the air. The numbers are very, very similar, and you have to figure that both of those guys, who are both 24 years of age, are going to reset the running back market in free agency. Falcons aren't letting Bijan Robinson go anywhere, and neither are the Lions letting Jahmyr Gibbs go. Last week, Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio was adamant the Lions must get this deal done with Jahmyr Gibbs this season right here, right now. They've got to get it done. They've got 2 more years here of Gibbs. I wouldn't want to go into the 2027 season with Jahmyr Gibbs on a 1-year deal on his 5th-year option. That I wouldn't want to do. So saying, well, then you have to get it done now, I'm not so sure. I think the Lions want to take a good long look at what Jahmyr Gibbs looks like this season as the main guy without David Montgomery. And look, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be great. I think Gibbs is ready to be the bell cow. I think he's ready to take and be up to 75 to 80% of the snaps on offense. I do. The speed, the ability, the shiftiness. He's the best back this team has had since Barry Sanders. They've had some pretty good backs since Barry. Nothing special. Gibbs is special. And he's a guy that Dan Campbell has said, look, we've built a lot of the offense around him. And now with new offensive coordinator Drew Petzing coming in, what will the attack look like? What will the game plans look like? What will the schematics look like this year with Jahmyr Gibbs? One thing that I would do is I would have him split wide more. I'd have him in motion more, and I would utilize the ability for him to catch the football. That's the biggest. Bijan Robinson's a good back out of the backfield catching the ball. I think Gibbs is better. I do. I truly, truly believe that. And we look at the numbers again. I mean, 181 catches. Robinson's got 198. They're both good. They're both really good. But there's something about Gibbs in space, Gibbs maybe in the slot where you can get him matched up with a linebacker or safety that just can't hang with him. And he's just that good. So when will this happen? And is there a reason why the Lions are waiting? I want to touch on that. We will do that coming up next. It is a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions. We are right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Workplace chaos can show up fast. Deadlines are stacking up. Projects need attention. On top of everything else, you're trying to fill an important role. The problem is that finding the right candidate can take a lot more time than most businesses can afford. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for based on skills, experience, and location. So you're spending less time sorting through applications and more time talking to qualified people who can help your business to succeed. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. The organizations that consistently succeed know how important it is to identify the right talent and put them in position to thrive. Seriously, it's fantastic. Best organizations aren't trying to look at every possible option. They're focused on finding the best matches. And they do that with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results with our friends at Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of Locked On Lions will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Thank you to Trevor Thompson from the Believe in Lions podcast for joining me yesterday. And I meant what I said yesterday. If you watch the Red Wing games and the Tiger games and everything else, and look, Tiger television broadcasts are an absolute slap fest. I mean, it's a circus. They're eating Skittles during the game, or the rain delay show. But when the old days of the Red Wing broadcast, when you had John Keating in the studio, you had Trevor Thompson doing sidelines and intermissions and reporting, and Ken Daniels and Mickey Redmond. That was as good a broadcast, professional TV broadcast, as there was in this town. And Trevor did a great job for many years. Canadian guy, knows the game, knows hockey, and the Wings have other plans with their network, and they don't involve Trevor, although Trevor filled in on some games last year. He's a really good broadcaster. He's a good friend. We had him on the show yesterday, and we're going to play a clip from that coming up, but check him out on that Believe in Lions podcast. We support all the podcasts. Dungeon of Doom with Ben Raven and Corey Woods, the Lions Collective show that Justin Rogers and Colton and those guys do, Pride of Detroit's podcast, Jeff Risden's podcast, John Macaroon, anybody that does Lions-centric content, we support here. There's plenty of content for all of us. We think here at Locked On Lions and the Locked On Podcast Network, by the way, 10-year anniversary coming up next week, we think we do a good job. But if you like Lions content and you consume so much of it, I invite anybody to check out the other shows. All right, quick question before I talk about Kerby Joseph and the Trevor clip from yesterday that I'm going to play for you, which I'm going to queue up here. But when will this contract extension happen with Jahmyr Gibbs? I had another thought, and I mentioned Bijan before from the Falcons. Are these two sides, the Falcons and Bijan, Gibbs and the Lions, so four sides, are they waiting on the other side to do something? Is Gibbs's camp waiting on Bijan? Is Bijan's camp waiting on Gibbs and the Lions? Because again, it'll set the market. I mentioned before that Saquon Barkley is making $20.6 million. Are the agents having some fun with this? Are they waiting on, all right, if Bijan Robinson signs first and he's going to make $21 to $22 million a year, if he's going to get a 4-year, $84 million extension. And again, and Mike Valeni is big on this. He doesn't pay running backs. He doesn't believe in that. That's Mike's opinion from the ticket. Mike Florio said the other day, the Lions have got to lock Gibbs up now. He didn't really give a reason why. It was just a long rant about how good Gibbs is, and the Lions would be foolish not to do it. and it may cause some issues in the locker room, and they don't want to get their most explosive weapon and their best weapon upset. But again, he's here for this year, 2026, and next year on the 5th-year option. But could the Lions be waiting to see, Art, if Bijan gets 4 at 84, are we offering, if our original offer is, let's say, 4 at 82, to have him make just a little bit less or a little bit more AAV than Jack Campbell? Is Gibbs looking at Jack's contract and saying, look, Jack's awesome. Jack's off of one really good year and is the second highest paid linebacker. Gibbs is the center point of the offense. He is the, what did Dan Campbell call him? The bell cow. All right. And he can do everything. Jahmyr Gibbs is a pretty good blocker too, on top of catching the football, running the football. So it's something interesting to keep an eye on. Watch what happens with Bijan. I'm sure Aaron Freeman on Locked On Falcons, when he's talking about Bijan, is saying, watch what happens in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs. All right, yesterday we had Trevor Thompson on the show, and we talked about Kerby Joseph and what Trevor feels the messaging was last week. And we're going to get updates tomorrow from Dan Campbell and Calvin Shepard, certainly on Kerby Joseph, as the Lions will have another OTA day open to the media. Here was Trevor Thompson from yesterday on Locked On Lions talking about Kerby Joseph and what's going on there. But, as far as where the team is at right now, obviously the biggest one is this Kerby Joseph situation. Oh. And how do you kind of see this playing out? And did you read through the tea leaves last week like I did from Dan Campbell that this is not good right now?
It's not good. And you just paid this guy to be the best safety in the business. You gave him the most money a safety's ever made. You need this guy on the field. And then you couple that with Brian Branch being out. That is such a huge impact on what these guys want to do defensively. And you're counting on those guys to be two key contributors going forward. You're paying them accordingly, and they're not on the field. Now, I understand the next man up mentality, but the next man up isn't quite at that level. And you need guys at that level because you've got questions all over the defensive side of the ball, including opposite of Aiden Hutchinson on the edge. So what are you doing? You just lost Anzalone at linebacker. You paid Jack Campbell. Obviously, you're going to keep that guy around. But like I said, question marks all over your defense right now. And that safety spot, that's a big, big question. So, he seemed kind of cryptic on that. But like you say, if you read between the tea leaves, it doesn't sound good.
No, it does not sound good. And Trevor is right. He agrees with me. Last week's messaging from the Lions and Dan Campbell, when asked by Justin Rogers of Detroit Football Network, what's the update on Kerby Joseph? And Dan said, we don't have one, and we're not going to know until training camp. And we have done everything. The Lions, he said, Kerby has done everything. The Lions medical team has done everything. And right now they're just having him sit out and rest that injured knee, that sore knee. He's walking around. People have seen him around town. He's on the sidelines in street clothes at OTAs, but he's not even attempting to work out or be in at least do any football activities. So Trevor's on the same page as me. It's rough. And Trevor's worried. And if you watched the show yesterday or listened to it, Trevor's more worried about the defense as a whole than I am, especially as he talked about Wanham or Derek Moore opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I think the Lions have made some good upgrades in their depth on defense. And yes, if Branch and Joseph don't start the year at safety, and you're starting the year with, let's just say it's the guys from last year, Thomas Harper and Avonte Maddox. I still say Christian Izien, signed away from the Bucs, is going to play a role and play an important role for the Lions. And I think he's a depth piece that might be, on a one-year deal, be a very underrated signing. But, of course the concern is going to be with Kerby. I don't think there's anybody that didn't listen to that audio last week from Dan, and we're not like uber concerned that his career could be over. And we're going to have to sit here until late July when the team goes to training camp on the first practice day of training camp, media there, fans there, I believe, and see if he's out there. Because if he's not, yes, the next move might be, how many different specialists do we see? Do we try something surgically? Is it the point where doctors step in and say he can't play anymore? That would just be absolutely devastating. All right. Speaking of safeties, remember yesterday I said Taylor Decker to the Rams. Watch out for that if Alaric Jackson is charged with felony domestic violence and gets suspended. And I said, Stafford could be calling up his buddy Taylor to come play for the Rams at left tackle if Alaric Jackson is out for a long period of time. Could another former Lion be headed back here? He was at the Darius Slay retirement party this past weekend. I will tell you who that is, what I'm thinking coming up next. But first, fans, listen to me. For all of you that watch or listen to Locked On Lions every day, I appreciate all of you. It's our everydayer listeners, our everydayers. Get your Lions fix, though, completely ad-free by joining our Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Yes, you're going to get an ad-free feed of the show, and you can take part in our Locked On Lions Discord chat. Talking to fans all the time on Discord. We're talking about over-under on win totals. Do the fans think it's going to be over 10.5 or under, which is what Vegas has right now? All of that in our Locked On Lions Discord chat, but you got to be an everydayer to be in there. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonlions.supercast.com. That's lockedonlions.supercast.com to join us, or lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Either one. Check it all out. It is our Locked On Lions Everydayer Club. Everydayer Club. All right, so yesterday I had a little fun, and I said, Taylor Decker to the Rams, keep an eye on it, all right? So this past weekend, our friend Glover Quinn, who co-hosts the Believe in Lions podcast with Trevor Thompson, Glover Quinn posted some pictures on Instagram, and then so did Stephen Tulloch. This past weekend, after 13 years in the league, big play himself, Darius Slay, had a retirement party down in Atlanta, retiring from the NFL. Among the luminaries that were there included former Lions head coach, the Reverend himself, Jim Caldwell, Jamal Agnew, Stephen Tulloch. Plenty of former Lions were in the building. I mentioned Tulloch before. Who else did we see in some of the pictures? But the man who I saw in some photos, and I went, what's he up to? That was at this event celebrating Darius Slay was his former Lions teammate and 33-year-old safety, Quandre Diggs. Look, I know the Lions have some safety depth. Dan Jackson, the 7th round pick, to go with Christian Izien. And I mentioned before, Avonte Maddox is back, and Thomas Harper. The Lions have some guys that they like on the back end of that secondary. Chuck Clark is another one. Free Mr. Clark. Great movie. What about Quandre Diggs to the Lions again? Now, some of you are going to go, wait, has he been playing lately? Well, I'm glad you asked. Quandre Diggs is now, said it earlier, 33 years old, 33 years of age. He's 33, turned 33 in January. He was a 6th-round pick of the Lions back in 2015. He was here for 5 years. Then he went to Seattle, of course, and spent 5 years in Seattle, last 2 years in Tennessee, and then last year, after playing a little bit with the Titans, how many games did he play? 8 games with the Titans. He got signed. He got asked for his release, requested his release November 7th, signed with the Seahawks a few weeks later to their practice squad. He played 1 game last year, but he was on the Super Bowl winning Seahawks, albeit he never made the roster for the playoffs. Our old buddy Quandre Diggs. Quandre Diggs was a good player, man. He was a good player. But, released by the Seahawks in March of 2024. Didn't sign with the Titans until right before training camp last year, or 2 years ago, August 6th. And has not obviously been the same player that he was. But Kerby Joseph's knee injury. We've talked about it. Blah, 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 blah. There's a chance his career could be over. Brian Branch could start the season on the physically unable to perform list as he comes back from a torn Achilles. It could be a full year, meaning that Branch might not return until week 3 against the Jets, week 4 against Carolina. If it's pup, he's got to sit out the first 4, so he wouldn't come back until the Arizona game in week 5, meaning you're going to need to sign somebody, or some of these young players are going to have to step up. But would Quandre Diggs come back to Detroit for one last swan song? I mean, he's, like I said, 33, 9 appearances, 4 starts for the Titans last year, 1 pass deflection, 30 combined tackles, and then asked for his release. He missed the second half of the 2024 season with a Lisfranc fracture. So he was out for a while with a foot injury, fractured foot. He's not been the same player. He started all 17 games for the Seahawks in 2023, and since then, only 8 starts in Tennessee in 2024 and 9 starts in Tennessee in 2025, and the numbers have gone way down. Not since 2023, he had 95 tackles, 5 passes defended. He's had 1 pass defended the last 2 years and a total of 72 tackles. I've always been a big Diggs fan. And I know he alienated himself here at the end because he publicly shamed Matt Patricia, and who didn't, for that matter. But keep an eye on that. Could the Lions, if the Kerby Joseph situation is not getting any better and you want to bring in a veteran, is Quandre Diggs looking to keep playing? He has not retired as of yet, and he's only 33. Just throwing it out there as an option, and a guy that we know here pretty well. All right, that'll do it for a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions. Tomorrow, Kelvin Shepard speaks. Lions have open OTAs for the media. We'll recap that tomorrow on Locked On Lions.